All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Lakeland Rotary Club. My name is Joel Ivy, and I'm so glad you could join us. Kicking off with the invocation Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test is Jim Russell. Jim is the president of Cement Products and Supply. He is a past president of this club and a 30-year Rotarian. So, Jim, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Certainly. I know this year's going to be quite different as far as Christmas, how Christmas goes and plays out, and from any other year that any of us remember. But there's a lot of things that are still the same. Sometimes there's an old saying that in Florida, we're in the tail end of the country because everything comes through here last. But when it does come through, a lot of times it's not as severe highs and lows as happens in other parts of the country. And I know in my circles and in this area, there's a lot of things that just haven't skipped a beat. It's almost still business as usual. But there are differences. But along those lines, back in December 11th, 2006, I did this very same Christmas prayer at our Rotary meeting. And just want you to take notice of things that are still the same today and some things that are different. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this great country in which all of us are fortunate to live. A country where we can go outside and not worry about stepping into a war zone. A country in which we enjoy the freedom of belonging to a club like Rotary, and to which we are free to attend a meeting like this one whenever we want. Here we are over halfway between Thanksgiving and Christmas, with Hanukkah underway. And we should realize all the things that we have to be thankful for. As we are racing around from one holiday event to another, from one activity to another, from one store to another, help us remember what the season is all about. As we are looking for those special gifts for our loved ones, fighting traffic, looking for a parking space, and waiting in line for all the while looking at your watch, knowing that we're already late for our next stop, help us. Help us to remember the spirit of giving and how much better off we are than so many other people in this world, our country, and maybe even the person behind us in line. Help us to slow our minds and appreciate this season. For the next week and a half, help us to see the words when someone mails us a Christmas card. Hear the words when someone wishes us a holiday greeting. And see the lights when we look at the decorations that are all around us. Please, Lord, keep those safe as they go home for the holidays if they are able. And keep those safe as they come home if they are able. And at this point, we would say, bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. But in this case, I'll say, bless this holiday for the nourishment of our minds, our hearts, and our souls. In your holy name we pray. Shalom. Amen. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. In the things that we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right, thank you, Jim. Greatly appreciated. Trey, you want to go through the introduction of guests and visiting Rotarians, please?
Sure. And I know we have visiting Rotarian Doug McCall with us. And do we have any other visiting Rotarians or guests with us today?
Yes, I have a guest, Irma Cole, my wife.
Welcome, Irma. Do we have any other guests or visiting Rotarians?
This is Josie Hill, and I have my husband, Dan Hill, visiting virtually. He has applied to join the club, and he just returned from our military assignment over in Indonesia recently, and happy to have him here with us.
We're happy to have you here also, Dan. Welcome.
Corey, Don Selvage. I hesitate to call my two guests. They are now in the Rotary Information Pipeline, but please welcome John Loud and Carol Hornsby back.
And welcome to both of y'all. Thank you, Don. Any other guests or visiting Rotarians? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Trey. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Do we have any happy dollar announcements? If so, please unmute yourself and speak up.
So I'll kick off with one.
All right.
I have a happy dollar announcement of my grandson being home and in an apartment, and it's reestablished in Durham after being in the ICU for 131 days at a children's hospital, and many of you prayed for him, Milo. And so it is with great joy that they're going to be able to have a Christmas in their own place. And so we're very excited about that as a family. And he's very stable and really is only working on light oxygen support at this point without it being forced air oxygen. And so my son said, if you follow this little tube, you can find him where he is in the house at the present time, because it's 50 feet long and he can go anywhere that we may put him down. So it's great news.
That's awesome news, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for letting us know. That's been a interesting thing to follow, and what a fighter that child is, huh? Absolutely. Any other happy dollar announcements? All right, hearing none, we'll move into regular announcements. We have tallied the votes on the board of directors, the nomination process that we're in. We're not quite finished yet, so we still have this other process where past presidents can elect 2 additional members. So by the next board meeting, by the next club meeting next week on the 22nd, we will be ready to make the announcement of who our candidates are, and then there will be the final election as we get into January for those board of directors. These folks will be taking their seats beginning next July, working with Nate. He's going to need all the help he can get. I think we all agree on that. Kidding, Nate. Matt, Melody, any announcements for Spring Obsession?
Just our weekly reminder, Spring Obsessions is on March 13th. We are always looking for more sponsors. So if anyone knows a company or has a company that wants to be a sponsor for Spring Obsessions, please reach out to me, Matt Schichtel, and I can get them signed up. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. Jim Russell, you want to carry on about Salvation Army? Bell ringing? Once you're off mute.
There we go. How about now?
That's better.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank all those who have already rung or who are currently ringing the bell as we speak. I want to thank those folks who are doing the calling, as far as reminding folks it's time for their ringing shifts. And I want to thank those who have signed up and those that will sign up. We still have some gaps, a few gaps. There's a few singles still out there. One folk are for a shift at all, but Thursday the 17th, as in day after tomorrow, we have the 12 to 2 and the 2 to 4 shifts that are completely empty. Then next Tuesday, the 22nd, we have the 10 to 12 and the 12 to 2 shifts that are empty. Next Wednesday, the 23rd, pretty much the entire day is empty with the exception of the very last shift. And then Christmas Eve, the 10 to 12 shift is empty. So if somebody is interested in any of those, please go to the website to Club Runner. You can get on by clicking on events, and then you click on sign up. And at that point, you get a chance to log in, and you can go to those spots and see where they're empty and where people are. So once again, thank you to all for helping out.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Do we have any other announcements? I always seem to miss one. All right. Very good. We'll get into the program. This is a particularly difficult one because I'm going to be introducing my boss. So this could be a real career ender if I go about this the wrong way. So, Mr. Mayor, I want you to hold up the thumbs up or something if I'm going down the wrong path. Shawn Sherrouse is a newly elected or selected city manager for the city of Lakeland. Shawn has an AA degree in public administration from Polk State College, a BA in management from Warner University, and a Master of Public Administration from the University of South Florida. He grew up in Lakeland and was away from 1989 to 1997 while serving in the U.S. Marine Corps. He served in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq during Operations Desert Shield and Storm. Shawn is a diehard Detroit Tigers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, which means he's lost and he's having a hard time finding his way. He also has two adult sons, Reagan and Brantley, and a red heeler named Bella. A fun fact, in 2011, Shawn umpired the week-long ESPN televised Little League Regional Baseball Tournament in Greenville, South Carolina. This tournament advanced the champion to the Little League World Series. During the tournament, Shawn received a qualifying evaluation as an umpire and is now on the qualified list for Little League World Series umpires. It's my privilege to welcome our city manager and my boss, Mr. Shawn Sherrouse. So, Shawn, take it away, please.
Thank you very much, Joel. Joel, can you hear me okay? Everybody can hear me? Okay. Well, Joel, thank you. You read that perfectly. So you're welcome for the bio that I provided to you, and I'm happy to see you were able to work through that. I wanted to check and make sure you could hear me because those of you who know Joel kind of know what a jokester he is, and the lapel microphone that I'm wearing was given to me by Joel. So I fully expected that it either wouldn't work or it would start playing music or something, you know, that only Joel would come up with, but I'm happy to hear that wasn't the case. It is a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you Rotarians, and want to tell you that I appreciate all the work that you do in the community to make Lakeland as strong as it is. Couple of things that wasn't mentioned in the bio for those of you who maybe haven't read about my history, though it's been well publicized. I think I've got a visitor there in the background that some of you may recognize. I'm a Lakeland guy, born and raised here in Lakeland. I come from a family that's been up in the North Lakeland area since the 1860s. We're very fortunate years ago to have received a pioneer recognition from former Governor Lawton Childs because my family established a homestead there in North Lakeland before the state of Florida was even a state. So we're very proud of that heritage, and my opportunity now to serve as the city manager in Lakeland is very humbling, and I'm privileged to have this opportunity. And I will do the best that I can to continue to move the community that not only was I born and raised in, but that I love so much forward into the future. Just going to share with you today some of the issues that are occurring with the City of Lakeland organization that I'm now have the opportunity to manage. I heard some of the comments before the meeting started, and everybody talking about COVID and the impacts to our lifestyles. Those impacts are certainly felt here at the City of Lakeland, and we've had to do an awful lot in order to respond to the impacts of COVID, and it's been difficult, as it has been for all small businesses and businesses alike. It's just as difficult for the city of Lakeland to respond, under unprecedented times that have been brought about by COVID. Some of the things that the city has done, we did, as many of you probably have experienced as well, we did implement a remote workforce program during COVID, and that continues today. I would say there was a time earlier on that we had probably more than a third, probably not quite half, but I would say close to half of the city staff working remotely. We have been able to reduce that, and presently it's a little less than a third of our employees that are working remotely. But the ones who are working remotely are in areas where they can do so, where we can still see them being just as effective remotely as if they were in person. And with that remote workforce, we've made it very clear that we will not reduce our level of service to our customers and citizens. And so far, that seems to be working out just fine. Talking about the employees, and again, relating it to some of the impacts of COVID, one of the things that we did very early on as a cost-saving measure was we implemented a hiring freeze here at the City of Lakeland. So on our table of organization, we have 2,490 funded positions in the budget. Presently, we have 267 vacant positions, and that's actually down from a high of 280 vacant positions. So we've tightened the belt. We've not filled vacant positions. We've kept them open in order to save some costs there during this very difficult budget, again impacted by COVID. And so even though we're down 267 employees, and that means that the remaining employees, they have more work to do. They have to fill that gap where they had coworkers assisting them previously. In many cases now they don't. And so, it's kind of on their shoulders as individuals. And even though we're asking them to be more efficient, to perform more work with less help from staff, one of the unfortunate impacts of COVID was in this year's budget, we were not able to implement an across the board or a merit increase to the City of Lakeland employees. And as difficult as that has been, I think the employees understand and appreciate the opportunities that they have to serve as public servants. And so we really haven't had very many questioning why, even though they're having to do more with less, why they weren't able to receive that this year. They've been very understanding. We've made some other budget cuts where it just made sense. Things like training and travel, we have significantly reduced that in the budget. Those are just kind of obvious areas we've been able to reduce. We've also had to implement some furloughs, unfortunately. We have had staff in areas where we've seen, reduced levels of activity. For instance, at the RP Funding Center, no one's having conferences right now. There's not a lot of events going on, where the public can attend. And so an unfortunate impact, again, from COVID is the furloughs that we implemented. Now, we implemented that for a period of time recently for the month of December because we did have events that were scheduled at the RP Funding Center. We brought those employees back, and then they're working to schedule other events, and we'll see where that goes. We'll be evaluating that in January, and they understand that the option that we may have to utilize of returning to some furloughs is an option that we will certainly consider. The fiscal year 2020 budget was one that we had to reduce when we started feeling those impacts of COVID. And so we did that. We were able to cut $9.6 million out of that FY20 budget in order to respond. For the FY21 budget in total, we've seen a significant reduction and we've budgeted and planned for that. The total fiscal year 20 budget was actually $627 million. And for fiscal year 21, that has been reduced to $605 million. So from $627 million to $605 million, again, a sign of the times, the impacts of COVID. We are forecasting and have been notified that we can anticipate reduced state taxes when we talk and look at sales tax, gas taxes, communication taxes, and the like. We've certainly had to plan moving forward in the budget for significant reductions, and we have done so. So, in relation to COVID, like everyone else, we're struggling with it, but we're able to maintain, and we're doing it with less staff. We're more efficient, but we are doing all we can not to reduce the level of services that we provide as public servants to our community. And I can't tell you how proud I am of our staff that remains for their ability to have done so, and I have full faith and confidence that they will continue to do so. As far as COVID protocols, I know that that's a big discussion out there in the public, and I would just tell you that a lot of that is policy decisions. It's very much impacted, by the governor's order, and so we've seen the city commission respond to those governor's orders. But in the city facilities, our protocols do continue, and I plan to continue those as long as we continue to see an upturn in the number of positive COVID cases. So when you visit a city facility, the protocols are still in place where we're doing temperature checks, and we're requiring where social distancing cannot be met, we are requiring that mask be worn, and in order to protect not only the public that we serve that visit our facilities, but also to protect our employees. We have fared pretty well as far as positive cases amongst our workforce. We certainly have had some, as all large agencies have, but we've done pretty well, and we need to continue to do so. Again, at those reduced staffing levels, we need every body available that we can have, and so we're being very cautious about how we handle our protocols at City Hall and our other city facilities. I'll kind of shift from the discussion about the impacts of COVID, which I know is front of mind, for everyone. And I just want to talk a few moments about, some of my priorities coming into the position as the city manager for the city of Lakeland. Throughout the interview process that was used by the city commission to make a decision about who the city manager would be, and I will tell you, I appreciate the process that was used. We had over 120 applicants for the position, and even though I'm the internal, I feel a little validation from the fact that, and through that competition, I was able to have the privilege and the opportunity to be selected as the city manager. And what I talked about throughout that process and continue is I want to work early on within this first year. I want to develop a platform for engagement with the city's citizens and customers. And I'm specifically talking about a relationship when it comes to city services that we provide. There's nobody who can give us better feedback than those customers who experience those services. And so I want to be able to hear from our customers and our citizens about ideas and suggestions that they have for how we can improve. There's a lot of people that's in this meeting today who do business around the state, maybe around the country, who have experienced services, municipal services in other areas. I want an opportunity for those individuals to reach out to the city and give us those ideas and suggestions so that we can study them. I'm happy to travel and go research those suggestions and ideas so that we can bring them back to Lakeland. I want to use innovation teams within city staff. I know many of you may have innovation managers, and that's a position that's coming much more common in large organizations. I'm not particularly a fan of having an innovation manager. I want all of staff to be innovators. And so when we get those ideas and suggestions that we can research to how we can better serve our citizens and customers, we're going to use teams of employees to study that and implement those changes for improvement along the way and in every area that we can, so that we can serve our public in the way that our public wants to be served. An example of that, when people who work through our community and economic development department, and specifically, when you're talking about like the building division, and folks who have to come in and pull permits, and that process that no one really enjoys doing, but it's just a requirement to have it done. We receive quite a bit of feedback with people who complain about that process, how difficult it is to maneuver. And so what I want to do is anyone who's experienced that anywhere else, as an example, who can point to a service that they provided that's similar, that they appreciated more than the way that they receive it here from the city of Lakeland. I want to hear that. So we're working to develop an app. We're also going to have a web-based platform where it's going to be very user-friendly, where you can go to one location, you can select a link that will pop up a text box, and you give us those ideas and suggestions. I want that engagement with those customers and citizens, again, that we serve. So that's one of the things that is I want to have accomplished in this first year. There's an opportunity for us to develop that internally, and we're working on that right now. But I'm also not closed off to the idea of, if we got to go out and find software or other opportunities from vendors, and then certainly we will do that, and I will accomplish it in my first year. I've got some heavy lifts, and the city and the community have some heavy lifts moving forward, and some of those things have already started, and others we'll be talking about as we move forward over the next several years into the next really over a decade. A couple of those things I want to talk about that I see as opportunities. One would be not unfamiliar to those of you that live and work in Lakeland, is the discussion of bringing broadband services into the community. That is we had selected, the city commission selected Summit as a broadband provider that the city can partner with, where we can utilize city assets along with the talents of Summit to partner in bringing those services into the community. That is moving forward. We have been meeting the technical experts, especially who need to talk about the city technical assets and how those can be utilized by Summit to accomplish that. Has been going on now for several months, and we're working on the agreement and the contracts that will need to be in place to be able to deploy that high speed broadband services that the community desires. Certainly there's advantages to that through economic development, telehealth and work from home programs and everything else that will benefit from that broadband partnership with Summit. So working on that actively, and you can look to hear more about that, I think, in the very near future as we bring back a contract and an agreement to the city commission that will then approve this relationship between City of Lakeland. Certainly Lakeland Electric manages and owns a lot of those assets, and Joel Ivy's very involved, along with a lot of his staff, in making that happen. So we're excited to continue to see the broadband initiative moving forward. Another area that we're going to see changing, the landscape's going to change very soon, and certainly again throughout the next decade as we look ahead, is next generation energy and how we produce that energy. One of the things that you're going to hear very soon is, we've got Unit 3, which is a coal burning unit. It's not very efficient. It has lived its life. And so it's time for us to take a look at shifting away from Unit 3 and how we will replace that energy production. There's certainly more efficient ways to do that, but there's a lot of heavy costs that go along with that. There's some impacts to some of your city staff that goes along with that, but it's an exciting opportunity to look to the future and how we will fulfill the energy needs of all of our customers and citizens. So excited to continue to work toward that next generation energy. That's just an interesting topic to explore. The city is a part of the Polk Regional Water Cooperative, the PRWC. That's a heavy lift. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for alternative water sources, which are going to be a requirement of the Southwest Florida Water Management District and DEP. They're not going to continue to issue permits to individual municipalities to provide the water of the future. You're going to need to be a part of a cooperative, and you're going to have to work with others that are within your region, and in this case within Polk County, to develop what those water sources are going to be to serve the needs of our future. So that's an interesting topic. That's a heavy lift. There was some mediation through that process that happened just last week. We had 2 full days of mediation amongst the cities and the county in order to make decisions about how the cooperative will interact with one another, and whether or not the cooperative will fund all of the capital infrastructure needs throughout the county, or whether cities, municipalities will have that true home rule opportunity that they should have to decide what water projects should they fund and be a part of, so that they will connect directly to those capital improvements, so that we'll have the water that we need to move forward into the future. So the PRWC is another one you'll be hearing a lot about, and a lot of heavy lifting from city staff and also with the elected appointees that are the representatives on that PRWC board. Another thing that is going to be very important is the city's budget. Historically, the city has been very dependent upon certain revenue streams, and those revenue streams are not going to be, we're not going to be able to rely on them moving into the future as heavily as we have in the past. And so we have to take a look at what other options are out there. I mean, certainly there's always the opportunity for the city to take a look at efficiencies and how we can cut cost. But also, what I believe is the exciting opportunities to generate other revenue streams. And so what does that mean? I think a lot of that kind of means cutting edge technologies. I talked about broadband earlier. That partnership with Summit will yield a return to the city. And over time, and it won't be within the first couple of years, but when you start looking 5 years, 10 years out, there's an opportunity there for some revenue sharing that can really be a major player in the city's budget and can offset or replace other areas that, again, historically have been dependent upon that I don't think we can continue to count on that, over the next decade in some of those areas. So broadband is exciting. Another thing that I would mention about these exciting, innovative technologies that can really have an impact in the city's budget and helps the city commission, keep the tax levels down for the community is the development of smart city applications. It's estimated that over the next decade, there's the opportunity for cities to replace about a third of the revenues for their general fund by smart city applications, and a lot of the data mining that goes along with that, the ability to sell that data that can be collected by the city through all of the different sensors and monitors that will be used as part of smart city applications. And the benefit from that can produce a revenue stream that's estimated, again, to be very healthy in general fund budgets in the development of those applications. So, it's areas like that. It's those cutting edge, technologies that are out there that are really going to be a part of our future. It's going to be a part of every successful community's future. And so I'm excited about that. So just wanted to kind of touch on some of those, what I'm going to call heavy lift areas that we've already started working on and we look forward to working on so that we can, again, continue to be a backbone for this community and provide the public services that all of our citizens and customers expect and deserve. So, with that, I will take any questions if you have any questions of me, and more importantly, if you have any questions related to Lakeland Electric, I'll be happy to punt those over to Mr. Ivy.
I think we did. So, Amanda, can you hear? Hello.
I got it. I muted you. Shawn, we do have a few questions. So first of all, Layla Blacking wants to let you know that Florida Poly has developed an app for idea collection and generation, and they have recently rolled it out or implemented some version of it at Publix. So that might be something you will want to touch base with either Publix, Layla, or Florida Poly about with respect to your idea for the all employees or idea generators. And then there's a question specific to the broadband service. Can you describe a little bit more about who will have access to the broadband? Will it extend as far as all Lakeland Electric customers? Is it limited to city limits, or what is the reach of the service?
Good question. Thank you. As far as the app, I will put that down as my list of options to explore. Because I am already taking a look at some other opportunities as well as some internal development that can happen. But our relationship with Florida Poly and our support of Florida Poly and the future of that particular area up there, it'd be great if we could partner on something like that. So I will certainly research that. As far as broadband is concerned, it is for the Lakeland Electric service territory, which extends out beyond the incorporated city limits, would be the opportunity. Now, I would tell you though, the way that works, and most of you probably understand this, is it won't be flipping a switch and all of a sudden everybody has broadband. There's dark fiber in the ground already. That's part of the city assets that Summit will utilize to provide that connectivity. And there will certainly need to be, additional resources extended out in order to serve other areas of the community. And working with Summit, I think they're initially I would say their priority seems to be, the core areas, the areas where most people will be able to access those services and where they will be able to most quickly penetrate the market. And so I think they'll start in those core areas, and then it will certainly develop out from there. But it will be a number of many years before we will be able to provide, with our partnership with Summit, connectivity to every customer or citizen within the service territory. But the plan is, again, kind of starting in those core areas, but over time it would certainly extend out into the Lakeland Electric service territory, not just the Lakeland incorporated city limits.
Very good, thank you. Rick Maxey would like to know, as city manager, what are your views on diversity and inclusion?
Well, diversity and inclusion. Diversity is one of, when the city has a list of values, and diversity is certainly one of the values that the city has. We do every month. We have what we call an onboarding session with all newly hired City of Lakeland employees. I spend an hour with them, their first hour of employment, talking about exactly that, about what the city's values are and how that creates the culture of our organization. Again, one of the values being diversity. We talk a lot about diversity, not just in terms of ethnicity or gender, but, diverse areas of thought. We want to bring in, people with all different types of experiences, all different types of education levels, and we want to bring them in so that we can take advantage of those diverse, areas of thought and ways of thinking. In terms, though, of gender and ethnicity, it is something that we will continue to work toward. I do hope that we see a day where the City of Lakeland organization makeup in terms of that type of diversity will match closer to our community. Right now, I will tell you we're about halfway there, where the community has, for instance, about 19 to 20% African American minority members. Our organization is only just over about 10%. So we got about halfway to go. Same thing when you look at the gender issue. We've got some ground to gain there. One of the things when it comes to, male, female in the organization is we look good as far as the makeup of the total organization, but when we look at leadership roles, we've got a ways to go. We're really, again, only when you look at the data, we're about halfway there in terms of matching our community in the leadership roles for women here at the City of Lakeland. So it's front of mind. There will be some efforts to continue to recruit and attract the folks that we need within the organization to match that makeup in our community. One of the ways that's being explored is I am an advocate for Ban the Box. And if you're not familiar with Ban the Box, there's a lot of information out there. But Ban the Box is an opportunity to remove questions about arrest records from the initial application for employment. Now, that doesn't mean that, throughout the process, that question won't come up, but there are a lot of people who, because of past, arrest records, that they see that on the application and they will not apply because they think that that's going to disqualify them. We want to consider taking that off of that initial application, but then throughout the process, when we learn of any past arrest record, then we can talk about what it was for, what the individual has done to overcome the obstacles that may have occurred previously, in an earlier time in their life. We're certainly not talking about, relieving anything that's a serious, major, criminal past, but minor issues that people can demonstrate they've done a lot of work to overcome. We want to give them the opportunity to have that discussion with us. Now, what does that mean? Statistics will show you that minority members of our community have higher arrest record rates. And so what that means is we're not getting that diverse pool of candidates for the positions we're trying to recruit for. And we want to change that. The statistics will show you that by using the Ban the Box method, you will have a bigger number of minority candidates in your application pools. So that's one of the things that I think you'll see roll out within my first year here as city manager.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What is the vision for public transportation across the city? Building more roads or implementing more road diets doesn't seem to be a great long-term option. What are we looking at in terms of ride shares? There's a specific reference to Transmilenio buses like those in Latin American cities. Basically, public transportation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, infrastructure, of course, is always, an area that you need to continue to improve upon and be able to, construct the infrastructure systems specifically for transportation, that are needed. Certainly, everything ties to that. I mean, economic development and on down the line. We have a very large role in that the city plays in our participation on the transportation planning organization, the TPO, and we advocate at the state level. I can tell you, we have one of the very best transportation planners, and Chuck Barmby, who works in the Community and Economic Development Department, that we could ever hope for. He is a talented human capital asset here that we take advantage of every day. What I would tell you, though, is a lot of my response ties back to COVID. I've had an opportunity just a month ago with the mayor to meet with the Transportation Secretary Tebow. And because of what I referenced earlier with all the state revenue sources being cut because of COVID, it's very difficult right now to get the grants and the funding needed for some of the infrastructure improvements that the community is going to require. We're vigilant on that. We continue to advocate where the city can come up with funding to contribute. I've already been told that that's going to be very important over these next several years as we recover from COVID. And multimodal is where we have to be. I mean, in order to be a cutting edge city, in order to attract the large high tech, high skill, high wage type employers that we want, we're going to need multimodal systems that work, for the community. So that's a very large discussion. As far as the rail system, that I think the question referenced, the city of Lakeland does not of our own have an initiative for that, but certainly some of those discussions of Sunrail and other opportunities that could come through our community and our efforts then when that should occur, to even have a stop if possible in Lakeland would be huge. It would be a game changer. But I would tell you, we're still considerably quite a ways off into the future on that.
Okay, I think there's 2 questions. The first one is, I think this is distinct from the other question related to broadband, and this one says, are there any studies or insights regarding high-speed broadband and how it might help to attract new businesses to the city?
There's a lot of data out there to that regard, and I mean, we're talking, gigabit type services, and there are other communities that, because of the high speed opportunities with the broadband connectivity around the country, there are good examples out there of the economic prosperity that has come about because of that. And so when you look at areas like Chattanooga is one that a lot of people look to, and the success that they've had that's directly linked to the capabilities there. What the disadvantage that Lakeland experiences, Kansas City would be a good example. But when you look at those communities, a couple of things happened there. Some of those communities that have had that success became, Google communities, and so Google was at the table to help fund those initiatives. Lakeland doesn't have that. We've applied for that in the past and unfortunately have not been selected. And then also, federal grants, when you look at Chattanooga and the federal grants that they received in order, to implement that broadband, high-speed gigabit, in their community, that was the funding sources that made it possible. But there's a lot of successes out there, and so I think no question, it's a pretty easy connection to think that all of the different industries that could then locate to Lakeland who are going to require that type of high speed service opens up all of those opportunities, and we're on a path to get there. We're just not on a path that includes those federal dollars or a Google Fiber community, but the city of Lakeland has the assets and are very strong with those assets, and now a partner that I believe will help us, to develop that high speed, gigabit type service.
Okay, very good. So here's the last question, and it's a serious one. What is your view on Leadership Lakeland Class 37?
All right. Is that from Gwinnell? No?
Brandon.
Okay, I can't see everybody on the screen.
I think it's a great question. It is a great question, though, Shawn.
Leadership Lakeland Class 37, like so many other things, was impacted by COVID. We had, our class was cut short, and we missed out on visiting, some of the areas that you get the opportunity to do through that leadership program. I don't know that we're the best class ever, and we amongst ourselves just kind of joke that we're okay, and the year has certainly just been okay. But I certainly appreciate all the friendships and that I've made in that class and in the Leadership Lakeland program as a whole.
All right. I think Shawn might need. We have a lot of open microphones. Shawn, thank you so much for participating in this today. Hang on. So, am I coming through? Okay, good. Shawn, Thank you so much. I've got this very coveted book that I'm going to bring over to you, take the 16 steps to get to you. But for your participation in the meeting today, this is a journal that you can log all your great exploits in and you know, probably all the praises that you want to sing about me all the time is what I'm really guessing. But thank you so much for joining us today, Shawn. We certainly appreciate it. Trey, would you like to thank our guests and visiting Rotarians?
Sure. I'd like to thank our visiting Rotarian, Doug McCall, and our guests, Irma Cole, Dan Hill, Carol Hornsby, and John Lout. Thank you all for coming, and hope you come back. Very good. So our weekly quote: despite the enormous role that local government plays in our daily lives, the Constitution makes not one mention of it. That's by Anthony Albanese. Next week program on the 22nd. Yes, we are having a program. This is our annual Christmas special. Please plan to tune in. This is a bit of a homage to John Larson. As you know, he was always our Santa Claus every single year, and we certainly miss him every day. This program is going to be led by our own Dr. Mike Loudon, so that should be extra special for us all. Absent any protest to the contrary, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. See you next week.